My name is Ashford, and at 32 years old, I never expected to be the family outcast. I had a great career, my own place in Boston, and I thought I had a close relationship with my parents and younger sister. That was until I discovered they had planned her elaborate engagement party and deliberately excluded me. Their excuse? My success might overshadow her special day. So I booked a first-class trip to Maui instead. What I never anticipated was how my social media posts would cause their perfectly planned party to unravel within hours. If you have ever had to stand up to family that took you for granted, drop a comment telling me where you are watching from, hit that like button, and subscribe to join our community of people who know their worth. Growing up in suburban Boston, I always tried to be the best big brother to Kimberly. When she was 6 and I was 10, I spent an entire weekend teaching her to ride a bike running alongside her until my legs ached and my hands were raw from catching her before she could fall. In middle school, I confronted 8th graders who were teasing her despite being only in 6th grade myself. We were close, or at least I thought we were. Our parents, Thomas and Nancy, always had a special gleam in their eyes when they looked at Kimberly. She was their miracle baby, they often said, after doctors told my mother she likely could not have more children after me. I understood that, and never begrudged her the extra attention. But as the years passed, the subtle favoritism became more apparent. When I scored perfect marks in calculus, my father simply nodded and said, "That is what we expect." When Kimberly brought home a B+ in the same subject 4 years later, they took her out for a celebration dinner at her favorite restaurant. My academic achievements continued, despite the lack of recognition. I graduated as valedictorian and earned a full scholarship to a prestigious university. The day of my high school graduation, my mother spent most of the morning helping Kimberly prepare for her dance recital that evening. They left my ceremony early to ensure she had time to get ready. I chose to study marketing instead of law, which was what my parents had envisioned for me. Marketing is for people who cannot handle real professions, my father said when I told them. But I was passionate about it and excelled in my program. After graduation, I secured an entry-level position at a respected digital marketing firm in Boston. Over the next 10 years, I built my career carefully, working longer hours than anyone else, taking additional courses to sharpen my skills, and eventually climbing to an executive position. My recent promotion came with a substantial salary increase and stock options. I finally felt I had proven myself, at least professionally. As my career demanded more of my time, the distance between me and my family grew. I could not make it to every Sunday dinner or spontaneous family gathering. My mother would sigh on the phone. "We understand your job is more important than us." My father would add, "I told you that field would consume your life." They never acknowledged that I was building something meaningful, something I was proud of. When Kimberly met James 2 years ago, my parents were immediately smitten. James came from a wealthy family with connections in the finance world, where my father had always wanted to gain a foothold. Their relationship progressed quickly, and 6 months ago they announced their engagement. I was genuinely happy for my sister. Despite our complicated family dynamics, I wanted her to find happiness. I made efforts to connect with James whenever possible. We occasionally met for lunch when he was in Boston for business, and I found him to be intelligent, kind, and clearly in love with my sister. I thought we were building a good relationship as future brothers-in-law. In recent months, I had been making more of an effort to reconnect with my family. I rearranged my schedule to attend Sunday dinners twice a month. I called my parents weekly. I sent Kimberly thoughtful gifts related to her wedding planning. I believed things were improving, even though there were still those subtle signs that I was somehow less important. When my mother discussed Kimberly and James buying their first home, she mentioned, "They will have such a beautiful family house, not just a bachelor apartment." My apartment was a penthouse I had worked hard to afford, but in her eyes it was still somehow less than. I tried to brush these comments off. Family dynamics are complicated, I told myself. No family is perfect. Little did I know how imperfect mine truly was, and how soon I would discover the depths of that imperfection. It was a Tuesday evening when my world shifted. I had just returned from work, ordered some takeout, and was scrolling through Instagram while waiting for my food to arrive. A photo of Kimberly appeared on my feed showing her trying on a new dress. Nothing unusual there, but a comment from her friend caught my eye. "You are going to look amazing at the party on Saturday. Cannot wait to celebrate with everyone." Party. What party? I had no idea there was any celebration planned for the weekend. I checked our family group chat, scrolling back through weeks of messages. Not a single mention of any gathering. That was strange. Even if I could not attend due to work, my family usually at least mentioned their plans. I called my best friend Ryan, who had become close with my sister over the years through me. "Hey, do you know anything about a party for Kimberly this weekend?" The awkward silence that followed told me everything. Yeah," Ryan finally admitted. "Her engagement party. I got an invitation a month ago. I assumed you were going to be there." My stomach dropped. I was not invited. I did not even know about it. After hanging up with Ryan, I texted Kimberly directly. "Heard about a party this weekend. What is going on?" Her response came quickly. "Oh, it is just a small, intimate gathering to celebrate the engagement. Mostly James' family and a few close friends." Something did not add up. I opened Instagram again and started looking through mutual friends' posts. Tags led me to James' cousin, whose profile was public. There I found planning posts about the engagement celebration, including a photo of an elegant venue decorated with flowers and custom K&J signage. Another post mentioned the 80-plus guests that would be attending. This was no small, intimate gathering. I called my parents' house. My mother answered, her voice immediately taking on that slightly tense quality it always did when speaking to me. "Ashford, how are you? It is late to be calling. I just found out about Kimberly engagement party this weekend," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why was I not told about this?" "Oh well. We assumed you would be too busy with your important job," she replied, the passive aggression barely concealed. "You know how you are always canceling on family events?" "That is not true," I countered. "I have made every family event I could for months now. I rearranged meetings to be there." Well, Kimberly wanted something small and intimate. With 80-plus guests, I could not help the bitter laugh that escaped me. "Including distant cousins I have not seen in years." A long pause. "I think you should talk to your sister about this." I ended the call and grabbed my keys. The 20-minute drive to my parents' suburban home gave me time to process what was happening, but not enough time to calm the storm of emotions building inside me. They were all there when I arrived, my mother, father, and Kimberly sitting in the living room as if they had been waiting for me. James was not present. Why was I excluded from the engagement party? I asked without preamble. My father stood, his posture defensive. "Now, Ashford, there is no need to be dramatic." "I am not being dramatic. I am asking a simple question that no one seems willing to answer honestly." My mother sighed theatrically. "Fine. You always have to be the center of attention with your success and your fancy job and your expensive apartment. For once we wanted Kimberly to have her moment without you showing off." The words hit me like physical blows. When have I ever shown off or tried to be the center of attention at family gatherings? "You do not have to try," my father said coldly. "Everyone always asks about your career and your travels. Even James' parents were asking about you when they should have been focused on their son and Kimberly." The truth continued to spill out. They had told extended family members that I was too busy to attend the party. They had barely mentioned my existence to James' parents. My sister had nodded along with all of this, offering only a week. "We just wanted a drama," Free celebration. As the conversation continued, deeper truths emerged. My parents resented that I had chosen my own path rather than the one they had mapped out for me. They resented that I had succeeded on my terms, and perhaps most painfully, they resented that others acknowledged and admired that success. Kimberly sat mostly silent during this revelation, occasionally nodding along with our parents' points. Not once did she stand up for me, or acknowledge that excluding her only brother from her engagement celebration was wrong. When I looked to her for support, she averted her eyes. "So you lied to everyone about me to justify not inviting me to one of the most important family events of the year." I finally said, my voice quiet but steady. "We did what we thought was best for Kimberly's special day," my mother replied, chin raised defiantly. It was at that moment that I truly understood. This was not a misunderstanding or an oversight. This was a deliberate rejection, a statement that I did not fit into their family narrative, and never had. The drive home was a blur. I do not remember the roads I took or how I navigated through my tears. Once inside my apartment, I poured a glass of whiskey with shaking hands and called Ryan. They said I would overshadow her. I told him when he answered, my voice breaking. My own parents said they did not want me at my sister engagement party because people might ask about my job or my life. Ryan was at my door within 30 minutes, bringing more alcohol and his unwavering support. "This is beyond messed up," he said as we sat in my living room. "What are you going to do?" "What can I do? They do not want me there." Ryan was quiet for a moment, then said, "Do something amazing instead. If they want to exclude you from their celebration, create your own that they cannot ignore." I barely slept that night, replaying the conversation with my family over and over. By morning, a resolution had formed. I logged into my company portal and requested 2 weeks of vacation starting that Friday, the day before the party. I had accumulated significant time off, and my team could handle current projects without me. My request was approved within hours. Next came the decision about where to go. I researched destinations considering factors like travel time, weather, and activities. Maui emerged as the clear choice. It was beautiful far away, and represented the kind of luxury experience that spoke of success without being ostentatious. There was something symbolic about choosing an island, separated from the mainland by miles of ocean, just as I now felt separated from my family by an unbridgeable divide. I used my accumulated travel points for a first-class ticket. The airline representative on the phone was helpful, finding me a perfect outbound flight on Saturday morning, the day of the engagement party. For accommodations, I splurged on an oceanfront suite at an exclusive resort on Kaanapali Beach. The virtual tour showed a spacious room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific, a private balcony with a hot tub, and access to all the resort amenities. It cost more than I would normally spend, but this was not a normal situation. That afternoon, I went shopping for a new vacation wardrobe. Swim Trunks Resort, wear a new pair of sunglasses, hiking gear for exploring the island. Each purchase felt like an affirmation. I was choosing myself, my happiness, my worth. Back at work, I spent 2 days setting up projects to run smoothly in my absence and briefing my team. My colleagues noticed my unusual energy, but attributed it to excitement about my impromptu vacation. I did not correct them. I was not ready to share the painful truth. That evening, I met my friend group for dinner. Unlike my biological family, these people had consistently shown up for me over the years. They listened as I explained the situation, their expressions moving from shock to anger on my behalf. "Are you sure this trip is the right response?" asked Megan, always the voice of reason in our group. It could seem petty. "It is not about being petty," I said, after considering her question. "It is about setting a boundary." They excluded me from a significant family event and lied about it. Going on with life, as usual, would tell them that treatment is acceptable. The next day, I had a session with my therapist, Dr. Williams, whom I had been seeing on and off for years to work through family issues. When I told her what had happened and my planned response, she nodded thoughtfully. "What you are describing is a healthy boundary," she said. "You are not retaliating or trying to hurt them. You are simply refusing to accept disrespectful treatment and choosing to care for yourself instead. That is growth, not pettiness." Her validation solidified my resolve. I decided not to tell my family about the trip. I would simply be absent, unavailable. Let them wonder where I was, just as I had wondered about the party I had not been invited to. As I packed my suitcase the night before departure, I experienced a whirlwind of emotions: anger at my family, anticipation for the trip, and a lingering sadness that things had come to this. For a brief moment, I considered canceling everything and showing up at the party anyway. Would that force a reconciliation? But then, I remembered my mother's words. "We wanted Kimberly to have her moment. Without you showing off, simply by existing as myself, I was apparently a problem. No, I would go to Maui. I would respect their decision to exclude me by excluding myself even further than they had imagined. And perhaps in that distance I would find clarity about what kind of relationship, if any, I wanted with my family moving forward." Saturday morning arrived bright and clear, a perfect day for new beginnings. As my rideshare pulled up to the airport departures area, I checked my phone one last time. No messages from my family, though they would be busy preparing for the evening party. I switched my phone to airplane mode, a symbolic disconnection. The first-class check-in experience was seamless. The attendant welcomed me with a warm smile as she tagged my luggage with priority stickers. "First time to Maui, Mr. Walker?" she asked. "Yes, first time," I replied, feeling a surge of anticipation cutting through my emotional turmoil. The first-class lounge was an oasis of calm compared to the bustling terminal. I settled into a comfortable chair with a complimentary breakfast and coffee, watching travelers come and go. Everyone headed somewhere with purpose. I wondered how many were also running away from something. Boarding the plane, I was welcomed by name and shown to my spacious seat. Once settled, a flight attendant offered me a glass of champagne. I accepted, raising the glass in a silent toast to my own worth before taking a sip. The simple luxury felt like an affirmation that I deserved good things, regardless of how my family viewed me. My seatmate, an older woman named Diana, noticed my toast. Celebrating something, she asked with a kind smile. "A new beginning," I answered truthfully. During the flight, Diana and I had a surprisingly deep conversation. She was returning to Maui after visiting her grandchildren on the mainland and had a wisdom about family that came from decades of navigating complex relationships. "Family can be our greatest comfort or our deepest wound," she said at one point. "Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for ourselves is to create distance when they hurt us, not out of spite, but out of self-preservation." When I shared a simplified version of my situation, she nodded knowingly. "You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm," she said. "Remember that." Her words stayed with me as the plane began its descent. Through the window, I watched as the island of Maui came into view, its lush greenery and vibrant blues of the surrounding ocean, a stark contrast to the emotional grayness I had been feeling. Stepping off the plane into the open-air terminal, I was immediately enveloped in the warm, fragrant air of the island. Something tight in my chest began to loosen as I breathed in the scent of plumeria and salt water. I collected my luggage and caught the resort shuttle, watching through the window as palm trees and ocean vistas replaced the concrete and steel of my Boston life. The resort was even more beautiful than the virtual tour had shown. The open-air lobby featured soaring ceilings, massive arrangements of tropical flowers, and a direct view of the ocean beyond. The check-in staff greeted me warmly, placing a traditional lei around my neck and offering a cold, tropical juice drink. "We have upgraded you to our premium oceanfront suite, Mr. Walker," the manager said with a smile. "It has the best view in the resort." A bellman escorted me to my suite, providing information about resort amenities along the way. When he opened the door to my room, I had to pause to take it all in. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the Pacific Ocean in all its glory. The waves crashed against the shore, the water shifting between shades of turquoise and deep blue. The private balcony was larger than I expected, with comfortable loungers, a small dining set, and the promised hot tub overlooking the water. After tipping the bellman, I stood alone in the quiet luxury of the suite. For the first time since discovering my exclusion from the engagement party, I felt a sense of peace. I opened the balcony doors and stepped out into the warm Maui air. The sound of the waves below was hypnotic. I leaned against the railing and just breathed, allowing the natural beauty to wash over me. As the sun began to set, casting golden light across the water, I experienced an emotional release that I had not anticipated. Tears came not of sadness or anger, but of relief. In that moment, I knew I had made the right decision. Whatever happened with my family, I had chosen to honor myself rather than accept their dismissal. After watching the spectacular sunset, I freshened up and decided to have dinner at the resort restaurant. Before heading out, I took a casual photo of the sunset view from my balcony and posted it to social media with a simple caption: "Sometimes you have to choose your own path to find peace." Number: Maui sunset. Number: new beginnings. The restaurant was situated on an open-air terrace overlooking the beach. As I enjoyed freshly caught fish and local produce, I noticed a group at a nearby table looking my way. One of them, a woman with curly hair, eventually approached. "I hope this is not too forward," she said, "but we are putting together a group for some activities tomorrow and wondered if you would like to join." "I am Emma, by the way." Emma introduced me to her friends Jack, a software engineer from Seattle, Lisa, a teacher from Chicago, and Michael, a retired firefighter from Denver. They were all solo travelers who had met at the resort and formed an impromptu friend group. Their easy camaraderie and lack of complicated history was exactly what I needed. "We are doing a snorkeling trip in the morning, if you are interested," Emma added. I agreed to meet them in the lobby at 9 the next morning. As I returned to my room after dinner, my phone, now reconnected to Wi-Fi, buzzed with a notification. My cousin Jackson had sent a text at the engagement party. "Everyone is asking where you are. What is going on?" I hesitated before responding honestly. I was not invited. Mom, Dad, and Kimberly decided not to include me. His response came quickly. "What? That cannot be right. They told everyone you were too busy with work to make it. People are disappointed not to see you." "Well, now you know the truth," I texted back. "Enjoy the party." I silenced my phone after that exchange, not ready to deal with the fallout. Instead, I filled the hot tub on the balcony and soaked under the stars, listening to the waves crash below. For the first time in weeks, I slept deeply and peacefully, the sound of the ocean lulling me to sleep in my luxurious bed. I awoke the next morning to brilliant sunshine streaming through the windows I had intentionally left uncurtained. After ordering room service breakfast to enjoy on my balcony, I prepared for the day ahead, with my new acquaintances feeling lighter than I had in months. The next morning, I met Emma, Jack, Lisa, and Michael in the lobby as planned. We boarded a tour boat that took us to a protected bay known for its clear waters and abundant marine life. Our guide provided snorkeling equipment and basic instruction before we entered the water. The underwater world was mesmerizing. Schools of tropical fish, in every color imaginable, swam around coral formations. At one point, a sea turtle glided past, regarding me with ancient eyes before gracefully swimming away. In that weightless, silent world, my family drama seemed distant and insignificant. Back on the boat, we compared notes about what we had seen while enjoying fresh fruit and cold drinks. Emma showed us photos she had taken with her underwater camera, including a surprisingly good one of me swimming alongside the turtle. "Would you mind sending me that?" I asked. "It is a perfect memory of today." After the snorkeling tour, we returned to the resort for lunch at a beachside restaurant. As we chatted over local cuisine, I learned more about my new friends. Emma was celebrating finishing her doctoral program in marine biology. Jack was taking a much-needed break from a startup he had founded. Lisa was enjoying her summer break from teaching. Michael was checking destinations off his retirement bucket list. They asked about me, and I found myself sharing a simplified version of why I was in Maui. Their sympathetic responses were refreshingly free of the complicated history and judgments that colored interactions with my family. "Sometimes the family you choose is more supportive than the one you are born into," Michael said, speaking from decades of life experience. After lunch, Jack and Michael headed to the golf course, while Emma-Lisa and I decided to try a surfing lesson. We met our instructor Kai, a native Hawaiian, with sun-bleached hair and a perpetual smile on the beach. Surfing is all about balance and timing, Kai explained as he demonstrated the basics on the sand. You cannot force a wave to come, and you cannot fight it once you are on it. You have to find your balance and work with the energy of the water. The metaphor was not lost on me. My attempts at standing on the surfboard were initially unsuccessful, resulting in several ungraceful falls into the water. But with Kai's persistent coaching, I eventually managed to ride a small wave all the way to shore, a moment of pure exhilaration. "You have good balance," Kai said approvingly. "But you think too much. Feel the water, brother. Do not analyze it." Again, the life lesson was clear. I had spent years analyzing my family dynamics, trying to understand why I was always slightly out of favor, why my achievements were minimized while Kimberly were celebrated. Perhaps it was time to stop analyzing and simply feel the truth of the situation, then ride that truth wherever it took me. After our lesson, Emma-Lisa and I found a local food truck serving authentic Hawaiian plate lunches. We sat at picnic tables on the beach, eating kalua pork and discussing our surfing experiences. I posted a photo of us with our surfboards, tagging the location and adding "learning" to find balance on and off the board. Number, Maui life. Number, new friends. As the afternoon progressed, I began receiving an unusual number of notifications on my phone. Multiple family members had sent messages, many expressing confusion and concern. My Aunt Helen, my father's sister, had sent the most direct text. "Just spoke to your mother. Cannot believe they excluded you from the party. This is not right." Uncle Rob, my brother, had messaged, "Heard what happened. Completely inappropriate. You doing okay?" Several cousins had sent similar messages of support and outrage. It seemed the truth about my absence was spreading rapidly through the family. Then my phone rang with a call from Jackson. I stepped away from my new friends to answer it. "Dude, things are falling apart here," he said without preamble. "Aunt Helen confronted your parents about you not being invited, and it got heated," she said. "Excluding the only son from a family celebration was shameful." Then Grandfather William got involved, asking how they could do this to his grandson. People are taking sides. I felt a complex mix of vindication and distress. "I did not intend to cause drama," I said truthfully. "I just could not pretend everything was fine when they deliberately excluded me." "No one blames you," Jackson assured me. "But your parents and Kimberly are freaking out. James looks really uncomfortable. His parents keep asking questions about why you are not here." As Jackson was speaking, a text came through from Kimberly. "Why are you posting about being in Maui? You are ruining my special day. Everyone is talking about you instead of me and James." I told Jackson I would call him back and opened my sister text thread. Another message appeared. Mom and Dad said, "You are just doing this for attention." Is that true? Did you really have to run away to an island? Before I could respond, my phone rang again. It was my parents' house number. I let it go to voicemail, not ready for that conversation. The voicemail notification appeared moments later. I steeled myself and listened. Ashford, this is your father. Whatever point you are trying to make with this childish display needs to stop. Your dramatic vacation is disrupting Kimberly engagement celebration. We expect you to stop posting on social media immediately. His voice was tight with anger, but I also detected an undercurrent of panic. I texted Kimberly back, "I am not in Maui for attention. I am here because I was explicitly uninvited from your engagement party by you and our parents. I am living my life, just as you are living yours." I have not mentioned the party once in any post. To my father voicemail, I did not respond at all. Later that evening, Jackson called again. "You would not believe what happened after you and I spoke," he said. "Grandfather William announced he was leaving in protest of how you were treated. He said any celebration that deliberately excluded his grandson was not one he could support in good conscience." Then, Aunt Helen and Uncle Rob left too, along with their families. About half the guests followed suit. I sat heavily on the edge of my bed. That was not my intention. "I know, but people are upset on your behalf." James pulled Kimberly aside for a pretty intense-looking conversation. From what I could overhear, he was asking why she went along with excluding her only brother and why no one had mentioned this situation to him before. He looked really disturbed by the whole thing. After that call, I turned my phone off completely. I needed space to process everything that was happening. What had started as my personal boundary setting had catalyzed a family reckoning that was apparently unfolding in real time at what remained of the engagement party. The next morning, I joined a guided hike of Haleakala, the massive dormant volcano that forms much of Maui's eastern half. The pre-dawn start was worth it when we reached the summit, just as the sun rose, casting golden light across a landscape that resembled another planet. The crater stretched out before us, vast and otherworldly. Far below the island, spread out toward the endless Pacific. Our guide explained that Haleakala means House of the Sun in Hawaiian. In local legends, the demigod Maui lassoed the sun from this very spot, slowing its journey across the sky to extend the day. Standing there above the clouds, I felt a sense of perspective I had been lacking. My family problems, while painful and real, were just one small part of a vast, complex world. In that spiritual place, I made a decision. I would not allow myself to be diminished any longer, not by my parents, not by my sister, not by anyone. I would stand in my truth respectfully, but firmly. I would prioritize relationships that uplifted rather than diminished me. And I would approach whatever came next with the calm clarity I felt on that mountaintop. The remaining days in Maui passed in a blur of beauty and new experiences. I went whale watching with Emma and saw a mother and calf breaching the water in perfect synchronicity. I explored the lush road to Hana with Jack and Lisa stopping at waterfall pools and black sand beaches. I attended a traditional luau with Michael and learned about Hawaiian culture and history. Throughout, I posted occasional photos that reflected my genuine enjoyment of the experience without any reference to my family's situation. I kept my phone on but did not engage with the continuing messages from family members. That confrontation could wait until I returned home, when I would face it with the strength and clarity I had gained on the island. As my departure date approached, I felt mentally prepared for whatever awaited me back in Boston. This trip, born of pain and rejection, had unexpectedly become a watershed moment in my life. I had chosen self-respect over silent acceptance of mistreatment, and that choice had apparently sent ripples through my entire family system. What would come of those ripples remained to be seen. The return flight to Boston gave me time to prepare for the confrontations that surely awaited. Diana. My wise seatmate from the outbound journey was not on this flight, but her words remained with me. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. When I turned my phone off airplane mode, after landing, dozens of missed calls and messages appeared. My parents, Kimberly, extended family members, and even James, had all tried to reach me. I scrolled through the texts, getting a sense of the fallout. The engagement party had indeed fallen apart with many guests, leaving early in protest of my exclusion. Kimberly was furious. My parents were both angry and embarrassed. Extended family had taken sides. Rather than responding immediately, I took a rideshare home unpacked and slept in my own bed, giving myself one more night of peace before diving into the family chaos. The next morning, I sent a text to Kimberly. I am back in Boston. Would you like to talk in person? I suggest the coffee shop on Maple Street at 3 this afternoon. She agreed immediately, adding, We have a lot to discuss. The coffee shop was neutral territory, public enough to discourage a scene but quiet enough for a private conversation. I arrived early, selecting a table in the corner and ordering an Americano to calm my nerves. Kimberly arrived precisely at 3, her expression a complicated mix of anger and uncertainty. After ordering her own drink, she sat across from me, hands wrapped tightly around her mug. You ruined everything, she began, her voice low but intense. Everyone left the party early. James' parents kept asking questions I could not answer. Half the family is not speaking to Mom and Dad. I took a deep breath. I did not ruin your party, Kimberly. I was not even there. You, Mom and Dad, made a decision to exclude me and then lied about why I was absent. The consequences of that decision are not my responsibility. You went to Maui just to spite us. No, I said firmly. I went to Maui because I was hurt and needed space to process being rejected by my family. Not once in any social media post did I mention being excluded from your party. I simply shared my experience, just as you shared yours. Her eyes filled with tears, and I saw a glimpse of the little sister I had taught to ride a bike all those years ago. It was not my idea to not invite you, she admitted quietly. It was Mom and Dad. They said you were always so successful and put together, and that people always commented on your achievements. They thought it would be better if the focus stayed completely on me and James. And you went along with it. She looked down. I did. I should have stood up to them, but I did not. I knew it was wrong. What does James think about all this? Her expression crumpled further. He is really upset. He said he had no idea I would exclude my only brother from our engagement celebration. He is questioning everything now, wondering what kind of family he is marrying into. We are. On hold, I guess. He needs time to think. I felt a pang of sympathy despite everything. I am sorry about that. I never wanted to cause problems between you and James. I know, she said, surprising me. This is not your fault. I made a terrible choice, and now I am facing the consequences. She revealed that James had been especially disturbed by how easily my parents had lied to everyone, including him, about my absence. He had questioned what other deceptions might be normalized in our family dynamic. His own family, while not perfect, valued honesty and inclusion. He asked me if I would have gone along with excluding his brother if the situation were reversed, Kimberly said, wiping away tears. I did not have a good answer. We talked for over 2 hours, excavating years of family patterns. Kimberly acknowledged that she had benefited from our parents' favoritism, while being vaguely aware of how I was sidelined. She had never considered how painful that might be for me, instead accepting it as the natural order of our family. As we prepared to leave, she hugged me awkwardly. "I am truly sorry, Ashford. I do not expect immediate forgiveness, but I hope we can rebuild eventually." The next confrontation came sooner than expected. That evening, my parents insisted on meeting at their house. I agreed, but set a firm 2-hour time limit. Walking into that house felt strange after everything that had happened, like stepping into the scene of an emotional crime. They were waiting in the living room just as they had been when I confronted them about the party exclusion. But this time their demeanor was different. My mother looked like she had been crying. My father's posture lacked its usual authoritative stiffness. "You have embarrassed this family." My father began, his voice lacking its usual conviction. "How exactly did I do that?" I asked calmly. "Running off to Hawaii like some sulking teenager, posting those pictures when you knew Kimberly party was happening." I maintained my composure. "I went on vacation because I was excluded from a significant family event. I shared my experiences just as I would have any other trip. I did not mention the party, or my exclusion from it, in any post." My mother jumped in. "But you knew what you were doing. You wanted everyone to ask questions about why you were suddenly in Maui, instead of at the party." "No," I said firmly. "I wanted to remove myself from a painful situation and take care of my mental well-being." The questions people asked were the natural result of the lie you told about my absence. What followed was 2 hours of difficult conversation. I listed specific instances throughout my life where I had been overlooked. My achievements minimized my presence, treated as an inconvenience. I described the consistent favoritism shown to Kimberly and how it had shaped my sense of worth within the family. My parents' responses shifted between defensive anger deflection and occasional moments of genuine reflection. My father at one point claimed, "We always wanted what was best for both our children." "No," I countered. "You wanted what was best for Kimberly. And you wanted me to fit into a very specific mold that would make you look good to your friends. When I chose my own path and succeeded on my own terms, you resented me for it." My mother began crying during that exchange, not the manipulative tears I had seen her use in the past, but what appeared to be genuine emotion. "We never meant to hurt you," she said. "Intent does not negate impact," I replied, quoting something my therapist had often told me. "Whether you meant to or not, you have consistently made me feel less valued, less important, less loved." As our time limit approached, little had been resolved. My parents seemed genuinely shocked by my perspective, but struggled to take full responsibility for their actions. They were still too caught in justifications and explanations that centered their feelings rather than the impact of their behavior. As I was preparing to leave, my phone rang. It was James' Kimberly fiancé. "I know this is awkward," he said when I answered. "But would it be possible for us to meet? There are things I would like to understand better." We arranged to meet for lunch the following day at a restaurant downtown. James was already waiting when I arrived, looking uncomfortable but determined. "First, I want to apologize," he began after we had ordered. "I had no idea you were not invited to our engagement party. Had I known, I would have insisted you be included." "I appreciate that," I said, "but you have nothing to apologize for. This was not your decision. Still, it was my engagement celebration too, and the thought that my future brother-in-law was deliberately excluded bothers me deeply." He paused. "Kimberly told me about your conversation yesterday. She is devastated by her role in all this. And yet she went along with it," I could not help pointing out. James nodded. "That is what concerns me. I love Kimberly. But this situation has raised serious questions about the family I am planning to marry into. The ease with which you were excluded, the lies that were told, the apparent resentment toward your success. It all paints a troubling picture. He confided that he had put their wedding planning on pause, needing time to process everything. My family is big on loyalty and honesty, he explained. The idea of joining a family where those values seem negotiable is difficult for me. Every family has its dysfunction, I said, surprising myself by offering this olive branch. Mine perhaps more than most, but I do believe people can change if they are willing to recognize harmful patterns. In the days that followed, numerous extended family members reached out to express support and share their own experiences of my parents' problematic behavior over the years. It seemed my exclusion from the engagement party had opened a floodgate of long-suppressed family tensions. Most meaningful was a call from my grandfather William, my father. "I want you to know how proud I am of you," he said in his gravelly voice. "Not just for your professional success, but for valuing yourself enough to not accept mistreatment. That takes courage." He shared that he had always noticed how my achievements were downplayed by my parents, but had not wanted to interfere in their parenting. "Perhaps that was a mistake on my part," he admitted. "But seeing how they excluded you from Kimberly's celebration was the final straw. That was not right, and I will not pretend it was." As the weeks passed, the family divided into factions. Some sided firmly with me, others with my parents, while many occupied an uncomfortable middle ground, acknowledging the wrong done to me while trying to maintain peace. Kimberly temporarily moved out of our parents' house and into an apartment, needing space to process everything that had happened and to work on her relationship with James. My parents, faced with the consequences of their actions in the form of family discord and their daughter distress, began to show signs that the shock was wearing off. Through it all, I maintained the calm certainty I had found on that Maui mountaintop. I engaged when appropriate, set boundaries when necessary, and focused on my own well-being above all else. The pain was still there, but it no longer controlled me. 3 months after the engagement party debacle, my family agreed to try therapy together. The first session was tense and difficult, with my parents initially resistant to examining decades of dysfunctional patterns. The therapist, a calm, firm woman named Dr. Rivera, skillfully navigated our complex dynamics. "What I am hearing," she said during that first session, "is that there has been a long-standing pattern of favoritism, followed by a significant exclusionary event, followed by a family rupture when that exclusion became public. Does that summarize where we are?" My father started to object, but then stopped himself and nodded reluctantly. "I suppose that is accurate." Alongside the family therapy, I continued my individual sessions with Dr. Williams, processing the childhood emotional neglect that had shaped so much of my adult life. "The fact that your family is willing to try therapy is a positive sign," she told me. "But remember that your healing is not dependent on their participation or acknowledgement. You get to decide what relationship you want with them moving forward." Slowly, painfully, Kimberly and I began to rebuild our relationship. We started meeting weekly for dinner, just the two of us, creating space to have the honest conversations we had avoided for years. "I always knew I was the favorite," she admitted during one of these dinners. "I told myself it was because I was younger or because I was a girl, but deep down, I knew it was not fair to you. I am sorry I never stood up for you." "Why did not you?" I asked. Not accusingly, but genuinely curious. She thought carefully before answering. "I think I was afraid of losing my position. If I challenged the dynamic, maybe they would withdraw their approval from me too. That sounds selfish now that I say it out loud." "It sounds human," I corrected her. "We all want our parents' approval." These sibling dinners became a healing ritual for both of us. Through them, I began to see Kimberly not just as my sister who had participated in my exclusion, but as another adult child shaped by our parents' problematic behaviors, albeit in very different ways. In family therapy, progress was slower, but still discernible. My father, always the more rigid of my parents, struggled the most with acknowledging his role in the family dysfunction. But in our sixth session, he had a breakthrough. I was jealous. He admitted the words, clearly painful for him. You chose a completely different path than what I had planned for you, and you succeeded beyond anything I have ever achieved. Instead of being proud, I felt diminished somehow. That is not an excuse, but it is the truth. My mother followed with her own realization. I enabled the whole dynamic. I saw how your father treated you differently than Kimberly, and instead of challenging it, I participated in it. I told myself it was because you were stronger and did not need as much support, but that was never fair to you. These admissions did not instantly heal decades of hurt, but they were important first steps. My parents began making genuine, if sometimes awkward, efforts to improve communication and show interest in my life without the undercurrent of resentment that had previously colored our interactions. 2 months into therapy, Kimberly and James decided to restart their wedding planning, though on a longer timeline than originally intended. To my surprise, James asked if I would consider being his best man. "Are you sure?" I asked when he called with the request. "Given everything that has happened, I am sure," he said firmly. "If anything, recent events have shown me that you are someone with integrity and self-respect qualities I value highly. Plus, I want to make it crystal clear to everyone that you are an important part of this family, whatever happened in the past." The first major test of our family healing process came at Thanksgiving dinner, traditionally held at my parents' house. In previous years, these gatherings had been tense affairs beneath the surface, conviviality, with undercurrents of competition and comparison. This year, approached with the new awareness therapy, had felt noticeably different. My mother asked genuinely interested questions about my work without the usual subtle digs. My father engaged me in conversation about current events without trying to dominate or dismiss my perspective. Kimberly and James made efforts to include me in wedding discussions, valuing my input. The change was not dramatic or perfect, but it was real. After dinner, my grandfather William pulled me aside. "I see the effort they are making," he said, nodding toward my parents. "Do you think it will last?" "I do not know," I answered honestly. "But I know that I have changed. And that means our relationship has to change too. I will not go back to accepting the old dynamic." He squeezed my shoulder approvingly. "Good for you." In the months that followed, I continued to reflect on how the painful experience of being excluded from Kimberly engagement party had ultimately led to important growth. The Maui trip, initially a reaction to rejection, had become a pivotal moment in my journey towards self-respect and healthier relationships. I stayed in touch with the friends I had made in Maui, particularly Emma, with whom I had developed a special connection. She visited Boston for a conference, and I showed her around my city, seeing it through new eyes as I did so. We continued to talk regularly, our friendship, a reminder of how connections formed during difficult times can be especially meaningful. By the time Kimberly and James' wedding day arrived, our family presented a more authentic, if still imperfect, unified front. The ceremony was beautiful, and standing beside James, as his best man, I felt a genuine happiness for my sister and her new husband. At the reception, my father approached me, champagne in hand. "I want you to know," he said, his voice uncharacteristically emotional, "that I am truly proud of you. Not just of what you have accomplished, but of who you are." "Thank you," I replied simply. "That means a lot." Looking back on the entire experience now, I realized that the courage it took to stand up for myself that day, to book that flight to Maui, rather than accept disrespect from my family, changed everything. It was not easy or comfortable, but it was necessary. Sometimes the most painful experiences lead to the most important growth. The truth is, you cannot control how others treat you, but you can control how you respond to that treatment. Family relationships are complicated, often loaded with history and unspoken expectations. But that does not mean you should accept behavior that diminishes your worth. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It is necessary for healthy relationships. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who took you for granted? What did you do to protect your self-worth in difficult family situations? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. Remember, choosing yourself is not selfish, it is essential. Thank you for listening. And may you always have the courage to honor your own worth, even when it is difficult.